Hey everybody, today we are talking about The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This is a story of a young woman named June Farrow who is born into a family where the women are all cursed, or at least that's what they feel like they are. Now, perhaps not a curse, but more like an illness, where essentially they will have a kind of like a mental illness where they feel like they are in two places at once, or that they're seeing things that aren't there. According to all of like the therapists and the doctors that have seen them, essentially they just feel like they are losing their minds, basically. Like they are just starting to go and not understand what is there anymore. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly which thing it is, but it seems like it has to do something or along the lines of like dementia or schizophrenia or like a mixture of those kinds of things, where they seem totally fine one time and then they're not. And June is just not wanting to become too close to anyone romantically, and doesn't want to start a family because she knows if she has a child it'll be a daughter, and the same exact thing is going to be happening with her, and she doesn't want to have her child become sick like the rest of the family does, and she knows eventually she'll get sick. And so to avoid this, she only has a few close friends, and one of them is Mason. He helps with the farm. They own a farm, and they're just strictly friends because she doesn't want him to become too close to her in romantically, because of what her fate is going to inevitably become. Real quickly, we discover that this book is not a mental illness situation that these people are infected with, and it is actually kind of more like a curse. For some reason, a red door appears at some point in time in all of these pharaohs' lives, and what happens is they can ignore the door or choose to go through it, but one of the characters says that it is inevitable and eventually all of the women will go through this door. The door is essentially a time traveling device. So if you go through it, you're going to end up somewhere else, not in your current time, in a different part of time. And so even though there are people that know about this, June's grandma was getting really sick and getting older, and they knew that she was going to pass soon, and she's been going through this stuff already. And her good friend Birdie is also living with them and is a good helper for the Gran and for June, and nobody has explained anything about this red door to June. They just said, Birdie just was like, tell me when your symptoms start to come. And June started to see the red door a year prior to her grandma passing. And so because she withheld this information, she'd already been seeing some things and some people that she knows aren't really there. And she's been documenting it in a journal, and she's been talking to the doctor / therapist person that her gran was seeing, and that's the only person that she's told. And so she's been withholding this information for a whole year, which eventually she decides to tell Mason and Birdie. And that very night, when Birdie is like, what, it's been a year, you should have told me about this. So you've seen the red door, you need to go through it. Next time you see it, you've got to go through it. And she made it seem very urgent, like she was supposed to go through the store a year ago or something, and like she should have already gone through this. It turns out that Birdie knows about this and has known about this whole time, and just has withheld this information from June. And she's like, there's certain things that I promised I wouldn't tell you and that I cannot tell you, but you just need to go through the door. I don't even remember if she even explained it at all about being a time thing, actually. I don't even think she said that to June. She just said, you're not sick. That's not what it is. And so when she finally gets the chance to go through the door again, which I think is like later that same night, she goes through the door, and she's now in the year 1951. And people recognize her, that she has no idea who they are. And this is where things get a little confusing if you're not following along because of the time jump stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this, and it's better for you to discover it on your own, so I'm not going to spell them out in super big details, but essentially, if she didn't go through the door, then a lot of things with time would have been messed up. Because of certain things that she needs to do in the past for them to become true in the future. And so that's why it's important for her to go to the past, so she can figure out details about her family there. Because her mother, she never got to meet her mother because her mother basically like went mad, or everybody thought she went mad, and like disappeared and ran away. But she left June as a child, as a baby basically, and she was found, and then she was raised by her grandma, and then her mom disappeared. Turns out it's because her mom went back in time. She went through this door. She didn't want to raise June in that timeline, so she put her in the current timeline that she's like, that she grew up in. Okay? Are you still with me? So that's why she was never able to meet her mom, because she went through the door, and there are rules about the door on how many times it can be used. And so that's part of the reason why. There's another big reason why that you have to read to find out. But if you like time stuff, I don't really consider this book science fiction. The book club that I read this with was also saying that they were like, so is this more like a witchcrafty kind of time like thing, timeline, time jumping stuff versus like sci-fi time jumping stuff? And I kind of agree with that, because it has a lot more rules and a lot more specifications on how it works, and that they're the only ones that can do it. But there's also, I feel like I was left with some questions, like, why are they the only ones that were affected with this? And who was the first person that the door showed up for? And like, there's a lot of things around the red door that I feel like has been left unexplained. And at the end, I was a little confused. The way that June ends up, I don't know if tampering is the right word, but the way that June ends up doing her little time jumping stuff, and the way that she affects the storyline and the timeline for her future generations, a lot of that is very important, and a lot of the things that she does sets in motion the things for the future. And that is where at the end I was like, wait, my brain was having a hard time wrapping around like how that actually worked. Because of her mom, and how her mom time jumped and kind of automatically made June's timeline incorrect from the get-go because of what her mom did. Anyway, honestly, the timeline stuff's gonna be way easier if you read it yourself, but there is videos out there that I've found that explain the timeline at the very end, and they write it out, and they show like, here's when this person goes through the door and how many times they did it, and here's the years, and they like map it out a lot easier. So if you get confused about that, or when you're finished reading it, if you have questions, those videos are going to be really helpful to watch, and that might help with some of the confusion. But overall, I was very intrigued with it. I was very interested in it. It wasn't too sci-fi for me. It wasn't too much getting into the technicalities of the time travel. But if you like time travel at a very basic level, and in this kind of mechanic, using a door for the traveling, if you want to know what June discovers about her family and her mother and her grandma, there are some twists at the end that I absolutely did not see coming, in terms of what she discovers about her family and her family members, and the choices that she makes in the past. So when she arrives in 1951, she finds out that there are people that know her that she doesn't know, but apparently she has been there before, and that's how they know her. But it was 5 years before that, and the current June, has no recollection of doing that, because this current June barely just went through the door for the first time. So she has to figure out how she was here before, but she doesn't know about it because it hadn't happened yet in her current future time. It might sound a little like it doesn't make sense when I'm explaining it, but when you read it, it does make sense. And you realize that this June, that she does not even realize had been there before, a version of herself that she doesn't even know yet, did some things that she was very confused about. She's like, I would never have done that. Why did I do that? There must be a reason why my future self sent me here before I had all the information. Like, there must be a reason why I'm here. And so we do get some answers about why she is there at that specific time. How come her other June self is not there? Like, you can't be in the same place. You can't have two Junes in the same timeline, or one of them will disappear. But that's not what happened, because she was already gone when she came back. Yeah? Got it? Honestly, I guess this is just a book that's easier to explain if you do full spoilers, or if you just read it yourself. But if any of this sounds interesting or intriguing to you, I definitely think it was worth it. Everyone in my book club that read it really enjoyed it. Some of them were a little confused about some of the timeline stuff, which is understandable, and that's why those videos that I mentioned before are really helpful and worth looking into. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it, because I thought it was fun, and it was pretty easy to continually want to know what happens next, and like, I feel like the pacing was good. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Let me know if you read this book, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.